Good evening, welcome. It was good to see Leicester fighting till the death. Did you leave early? Come on, you can admit it. Don't worry if you went. If you stayed, it was worth it. The last 8 or 9, 10 minutes was well worth staying. Listen, my name's Phil. This is the Monday Night Fan Zone show. It was a 2-2 draw. We'll talk about that. We've obviously got Newcastle next Saturday to look forward to as well. As ever, Monday night, 7:30 till 8. We want all your views, all your comments. I've already shared the link. So if you want to click on that link, you can come on live and give us your views on camera. If not, put in the comments what you thought to yesterday's match. He's live here for the next 30 minutes.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.
Yes, indeed. My name's Phil. This is the Monday Night Fan Zone show. If you're watching this live, get your views in, get your comments in. Don't forget, you can follow us wherever you're at Leicester Fan TV. Let's get a few comments in there. Craig says, hi, Phil and Leicester City fans. Great draw at the weekend. The Foxes fight is back. Andy says, good evening. Hope you're well in there. Richie, hope you're well. Good evening, Phil. Very good point for Leicester City yesterday. He says he wasn't at the game yesterday because of the weather. Yeah, it was pretty grotty, Richie. I can tell you the weather was not great at all. Ivan, good evening to you, Ivan. What did you think to yesterday's game? Do let me know. Hope you're well, Ivan. The Blue, Titan Blue says, hello, all happy days. 4 points from 2 games. Decent return, certainly against Brighton, wasn't it, Tito? I think that wasn't too bad. We'd have probably, most of us would have took a point before we come back. Callum says, what a comeback. It was a good comeback. Last good 10 minutes, Callum. Listen, Leicester, it's not the first time it's happened this season. I think that's the 5th time we've come back from being at least a goal behind to get a point this season. So it's becoming a bit of a trend. But again, there's some things we need to talk about, which is probably like, why do we have to go a goal behind so many times before we come back? Andy says, great result and played 4-4-2 first time in ages. There was a bit of 4-4-2 in there. It's been interesting. Rude made some impact, I think, there with his changes. Keith says, good evening. It's the Rude good feeling mood. I like that. Rude in, says chapter 37. Yeah, there's no Rude out yet. Not yet, anyway, mate. Cruising our way, says Keith, to safety now. Important points. At one point yesterday, obviously I was at the game, so I wasn't aware of it, but Ipswich were winning, I think, 1-0, and we were losing 2-0. I think there was only 1 point in it. So they had a late, Bournemouth had a late couple of goals. We had a late couple of goals. It swung, and I think we're 5 points clear now, so that was more than decent. Gary says, scrappy game. It was scrappy. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, Gary. I don't think we played that well for 85 minutes at all. So, but Gary goes on to say, but we will be missing a couple of midfielders Saturday. I'm going to talk to you about that because Soumare is out, I believe, and Ndidi is out, both on yellow card infringement. So let us know what you think. Who are we going to put into that midfield? Is it going to be Skip, Winks, Chowdhury? Who are we going to put in on Saturday against Newcastle? Callum says we could have even stole 3 points at the end. What's the ref doing? I mean, do you want to talk about the ref? I mean, I sit in P block, which is quite near the away fans. They were slating the ref. I think we were slating. I don't think anybody enjoyed what the ref was doing yesterday. Let us know your thoughts on the ref, but keep it clean. Dean says, great fight back. Good evening to you, Dean, as well. He says, wouldn't have said this a month ago, but going to miss Soumare and Ndidi at Newcastle on Saturday. Rude's Blue Army. Soumare is growing on me. You know, I've slated him for a long time, Dean, but he is growing on me. He had a pretty decent game again. Adam says here, good to see a change in system getting us the late goals, and a little bit more proactive with having Daka and obviously Jamie Vardy on. We need to talk about Bobby Reid because he had an assist, had a goal, We want to know what your views on that in there. Richie says, a good start for Rude. 2 games unbeaten as our new manager. It's going in the right direction. He'll work the Leicester City players hard, which is what we need in there. Don't forget, tonight, get as many of your comments in if you can. I have shared the link. I'm going to pop it in there one more time so that it's in there. So if you want to click on this, and feel brave, you can come on the camera and let me know exactly what you want. So there it is. It's there. You can click from wherever you are, watching on YouTube, Facebook. You can get in there. Chapter 37 says Dan Ashworth sacked without even influencing a transfer. Do they want Rudkin in there? Dan Ashworth at Manchester United. Ivan says, tough game at Newcastle. I would take another draw. Yes, Ivan, I would absolutely take another draw. They lost at home to West Ham. I don't know, maybe. Newcastle's not a very, very happy hunting ground for us. So it's going to be interesting. Andy says, Captain Vardy performance, get that statue ASAP. He keeps going. He keeps going. Keep going at this rate. We'll be saying he's got one more season in next year, I think, in there. Terry says, when was the last time we had 2 strikers up front? A plan B. Wow. Yeah, and I think Reed had a big impact in that as well. He obviously did set up one of the goals and he scored the winner. A winner. It wasn't a winner. It was a draw. What am I on about? But it felt like a winner if you were there. Ian, the Super Fox, says, great result. Look for a point on Saturday. Keep this good form going to this busy month ahead. And Jane says, good evening, Jane says, good substitutes at the right time. He was proactive and bold, which is nice to see in a manager, isn't it? I actually think it's only been 2 games. I think I already prefer a bit of Rude's directness at times to, dare I say it, Enzo's. But there you go, I said it. Christopher says, it's beautiful to see some grit, drive and determination in our play and Rude passionate on the touchline. Life looks peachy at the moment. Chris, getting carried away. There you go. That's fine. Listen, I've got Reedy and Nick have both clicked in, so I'm going to add them both in. Good evening, Reedy. Good evening, Nick.
Evening, Phil.
Evening.
Now, good evening. Now, don't forget, I'm going to share it one more time in here because people often say, oh, it's Nick, it's Reedy. But these guys click on the link. That's what happens. So there it is. If you want to come on camera and get your views in, you can do it. But I'm going to talk to these lads and get as many comments on there as much as possible. Richie says, get Rudkin and Wheeling out of our club. I'm not going to talk too much about that. Nick's nodding his head. Nick, I don't particularly... yesterday's game, I think it's a funny time to hear the Rudkin out chants, at the game during a match. I'm not sure that really works for me as when we're trying to get back into a game. But you agree, obviously, you want to get them out.
Just look at what damage they've done to the club in the last few years, to be perfectly honest, Phil. We've gone from a club that, let's be fair, teams like Brighton copied what we were doing to how we are now and getting into mess with PSRs and coming up with decisions where you've got to pay £25 for a card for your season ticket on top. They're so not connected with the fans, shall we say. I think that's the nicest way of putting it.
Yeah, it does felt a little bit like that. Reedy, let's before we go any further, Reedy, it looks like the police are in your background and they're coming around to arrest you. What have you been up to now? All I can see is blue flashing lights.
Yeah, thought I'd freshen up
the Leicester City nightclub in there.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Let's put it full screen. Give us your views on yesterday's game.
Like to begin with, when we first left the game, I wasn't too pleased with it. But then when watching the match today and seeing how what I didn't see and the way that Rude did change it in the last 10 minutes for me did kind of show a lot more than I did think I saw. But yeah, it wasn't the prettiest game. I think it was a worse performance than it was against West Ham. It kind of shows because Brighton is a better team. But I still think there's more fight there. I still think there's some sort of identity in that game. Again, I think I saw it more against West Ham than I did yesterday. But overall, good point. I was going to leave at that one point because I didn't see any way back, if I'm totally honest. And I think a lot of fans did think that.
A lot of fans are gone, Reedy. Trust me, a lot of fans are gone. I'm not knocking them. It was a horrible day. It's getting close to Christmas. We hadn't looked for 85 minutes, really, like we were going to score, to be fair.
No, don't get me wrong, there was chances, but I don't think we were clinical enough at the time when, against West Ham, we were clinical. We did make them final passes work, but against Brighton, we just didn't get that clinical edge right for me, and it just showed. And obviously, when the formation did change with what Ruud did, putting Daka up front with Vardy and putting the fullbacks high up, it changed the game, and that's why we did score two in what 6 minutes than having 85 minutes of basically one style, and it just couldn't work. So yeah, but again, fair play to Ruud to change that up. I think the way that match they told us about how they needed an extra man up front because he had 3-on-1 with Vardy on his own. It was pointless trying to attack with just Vardy on his own. So that's why Ruud did it, and it worked. So.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting one. Dean says here, sorry, that's Dean says agree, Phil. Wouldn't sing Rudkin out when we're trying to get back into a game. I just think we've just had all the Cooper out stuff. I think there's a time and a place. I think it's got to be all hands to the pump from fans to just sing and cheer for the lads to get a point in. That's my thing on it, rather than Rudkin out and all that. I think, look, you've had one man out. Rudkin, somebody put in there as well. It was interesting in there. Keith says here, and Keith says, wasn't Rudkin part of our successful period too? Honestly, there's a lot of things that you could argue that he's done wrong, but there's also, you could sit there and have an argument that he's done right as well. But I don't want to get into a Rudkin in or out tonight, Nick. I do want to get your thoughts on, and I'm going to put it on screen now, on Bobby Reid, Nick. Bobby Reid, let us know what do you think about him?
I like Bobby Reid. I'm not going to lie. I think for me, he's like an Ayew. He's that sort of impact sub, and he's good on the defensive side as well as the attacking side, a bit like Ayew is. Is he, you start a game from it? I don't think he is. But as
He's
it was
part of the
proven,
squad, isn't he?
he is, and he's utilising him. And he was unlucky against West Ham because he could have got a goal then, and obviously he scored yesterday. He's a squad member, and we're utilising him. We've got to at this point because we can't bring any more faces until January. So he's doing all right. I don't think he deserves some of the harshness he has on social media at times.
Yeah, I agree. Taito says we're a different team in only a few days training. We'll get better in there. Nathan says Ruud van Nistelrooy is learning. He's only been there a week. Can we be positive? I think we are, Nathan. I think everybody is being very positive.
I'm positive. I mean, I thought you guys said what you thought about the game yesterday. I don't think it was as bad as what you thought. I thought we did all right. And let's be fair, Lamptey's goals are well there. There's not going to be many keepers in the world that will stop out. And if their second goal was great. You look watch it again and how he's turning the players inside out with the skill. You can't fault those goals. You can't really stop them. And before that, what did they do? Not a lot. I wasn't impressed with Brighton.
Nick, when I was there at the match, I felt we were still in it, but we were second best team, really, for a lot of the game. And I expected that, to be fair, because Brighton are a top 6 side at the moment, and West Ham, who are not, I expected it to be tougher than West Ham, and it definitely was tougher, really.
I think it was mainly down to the fact that we weren't clinical enough in the final third, and that's why I, in my opinion, we just didn't look like we could get that goal until we changed it, obviously. But like Nick says, it wasn't awful. I thought at 1-0 down, there was still a chance we can get back into it, but it just the final third passes weren't there for us. And like the match that they said, I'm going to keep saying it. When Vardy's on his own up front with 3 of the defenders around him, you're not going to get past him unless you get a bit more attacking threat up there with, like I say, the fullbacks or even bringing on Steffi. I think the moment he came on, I know people put a bit of a criticism on him for how he plays, but when he comes on, he gives them a threat. So I think that's what you need. And there's certain things when you're playing with one striker, it won't work, and you've got to go for a bit more directness and a bit more attack.
Yeah, let's get some comments in. Richard says here we were the better team second half. If we'd had another 10 minutes, we'd have won. I'd say, Richard, if we'd had another 2 or 3 minutes, I think we could have won. It was one of those games. He goes, first half was like a chess game. Brighton were a decent team in there. Taito, watching on YouTube, says it's perfect timing for Rude to look at the players in December, ready for January transfer window. I agree with you there. He's going to have to make some signings in January. I think probably loan signings in. Bobby Reid will always be a sub, never starter, says Andy. Although, Andy, there's no Sumari and there's no Ndidi on Saturday. So how are you going to set them up in there? Tim says Sumari is reborn. Who would have said that a month ago? Certainly not me, Tim. I wouldn't go as far as to say reborn, but I certainly start to see a player in there, which is good. Ayew should have closed down Lamptey quicker. I don't think Patrick, and again, I'm going to ask Nick about this. I've been cheering Ayew on most of the season and saying why I think he should start. But Nick, I actually think, if I'm honest, Ayew didn't have his best game yesterday by a long way.
I don't think he was fit, truth be told. I think he was either under the weather or he was carrying something because I don't think he was. Yeah, I don't think he was 100% myself.
It didn't look quite right, Nick, to me, Ayew.
No, that's not the Ayew we've seen this season. At least, you know, when he's come on, he's tried his hardest, he's given, but he was very lackadaisical yesterday.
Really, is this because, I mean, you've not been one of Ayew's biggest fans, and that's fair enough this season. Do you think he was a little bit unfit, maybe, like Nick says, or do you think it was just Brighton are a decent team and he just didn't have his best game?
I don't think he's a starter in my eyes. I get the point. He scored a lot of goals, but I think there are a lot of moment goals. I think he's come on and done something different for what we needed. I don't think he's a starter. I think when he starts and he plays for 60 minutes, in my opinion, like yesterday, I thought he was invisible. I just don't think he was really helping the team going forward. He got the ball, held the ball up, and then got a foul. Which again, that's his style. I get it, but I don't know whether he will stay in this team long with Rude in charge. I think he will slowly see that you need to be a bit more direct. So I think that's where Steffi might come in a bit more, maybe get a bit more confidence in him. But I don't know, because like I say, I think even McAteer, I don't think he's been amazing. Yes, he gets some runs in the attack, but I don't think that last part of his efforts are going to get there in my eyes. I think he needs to go on loan. But yeah, Ayew, I can get what he's doing, but I don't think he's a starter. I'm thinking I'd much rather him come on as a sub.
Well,
I
he
think he
does
only
have
started
that
because
sub role.
Boyanotto weren't playing, because
Yeah.
he was allowed to play. That would have been why.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick, here's an interesting comment. There's two questions I want to get in. One's from Simon Mack and one here from Neil. Nick, given Sumari, this is Neil asking this, suspended and Ndidi injured, I think Chowdhury will be called on for Newcastle at the weekend. Sumari suspended, Ndidi, I think Ndidi is suspended anyway, isn't he, Reedy, because of his extra thing, but we think he's injured anyway. What are we going to do? Because those two have suddenly started to look quite good as a pair.
They are, but, we've got, hopefully Winks is coming back soon that we can utilise. Where's Skip? We paid all that money for Skip. Skip could be utilised. We'll get Boyanotto back. So we might be able to have El Canus and Boyanotto and start another night we saw against West Ham, which, let's be fair, was quite exciting at times. Bilal and Vardy were linking up really, really good. Maybe Mavrovidi on the left and Boyanotto on the right and El Canus in the 10 role. And it's really just that sort of behind those guys you need to worry about, which would be your Hamza and you, in my opinion, if Winks ain't fit, it'll be Skip.
Yeah. I mean, Craig says here Mavrodidi should be starting, which I'm sure really you would agree with that over Ayew. But what I would say is I actually have liked to see, I think Mavrodidi offers a little bit more. When he comes on, he looks hungry for 20, 25 minutes and goes at defenders. So I think I'd rather see Mavrodidi come on as a sub and have that impact. But because I don't think he tracks back enough for me, really. But you disagree.
I get the point he doesn't track back, but I think on the attacking side, when he gets on one-on-one with a player, he can beat them. Unlike Ayew, I think he can get that, even if it's like a minute out of the 90 minutes where you can get that chance on goal. I think he will score it, and I think that could be a big difference. But again, I get people's opinions. I think some people might say he's better as an impact sub. I think he's an impact sub. But if both of them don't start, who does start? And I think either one of them will start because you need that one attacking player. Or you go for both and put AU and Mavadidi with one of the attacking creative midfielders in the centre. But from like I say, from like Nick says after the West Ham game, I don't think when both attacking mids are fit, you have to pay both of them now.
Yeah, let's get some comments in. Taito, watching on YouTube, says, great to see Vardy on and brings on Daka, crying out for this since Enzo. Well, even Enzo's never played the two up top. So that's why I say I quite like what Rude's trying there. Andy says, problem with Mavadidi is he goes up missing too often when starting. Andy, that is my take on Mavadidi. I'd love to be proved wrong, but that is exactly how I see it. And he goes on to say, although saying that he's more dangerous and positive than Ayew, which is what Reedy says. I think it's an interesting one. Gary's saying Skip should be in for Saturday. Tim asks, what's the thoughts on Rude using a winger to make the box just like Cooper? I've not heard anyone moan like they were before with Cooper in charge in there. Neil says, thought Cody looked like his match fitness was getting back to yesterday, reads the game so well. I don't think Cody was quite as good as he was against West Ham, but I definitely liked the leadership that I'm seeing out there. Here's my question I want to ask. I'll start with Nick with this one. Simon Mack says, what happens if Vardy gets injured? And that's Simon says that's his concern. He's the talisman and he's our cutting edge. We're still rely on Jamie Vardy to drag us out of these situations, don't we, Nick? I know Daka scored a great goal against West Ham, but there's so much on Jamie Vardy at the moment for Leicester, isn't there?
There is, but also what is driving, I don't know if I can speak for you guys, but it certainly drives me mad, is there's quite a lot of people, especially in the punditry side of things, that were writing him off before a ball was kicked this season, that he was too old to do it, he can't do it and stuff. Well, what's he had? 9-goal involvement so far this season, scoring 6. That's not a player that's passed it. But yeah, if he gets injured, then Daka comes in. You know, if it's a long-term injury, then we might have to look, if we can't bring somebody in, which I still think we do need another striker, because Edward, let's be fair, a bag of spanners is better up front than Edward is at the minute.
Well, I assume nobody rates Edward because we've barely seen a touch of him all season.
And I don't necessarily think there's a player there. You know, when he was at Celtic, he was fantastic. And when he first went to Palace, he was good. Whether I don't know, he's not putting his effort in because, let's be fair, it's not his parent club, is it? It's a loan. He goes back to Palace at the end of it. So I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah. We're laughing at Chris. Chris has got a cheeky, smiley, winky face there. I don't really rate Vardy. He's just having a laugh there. We know he is. Andy says, not sure on Rude's thinking with taking Vestergaard off for Bays. Strange substitution for me. Reed, he did the same against West Ham. I've only got a feeling that maybe Vester's not 100% fit and he was doing it for fresh legs at the back.
I think the majority of what I've seen is more because he wanted a bit of pace in that back line when it was getting a bit stretched at the back of the game. So again, I get that point. Again, you when you see Cody and Vestergaard in that back line, I've been a critic to say that I don't think both of them should start together in the past games, but they're showing that because of their experience and the positioning of them, they don't need as much pace to be in that back line. And maybe, like I say, he's done it twice now, so I'm not surprised that he's either got a bit of confidence in phase with with the pace on him. I won't fault him if he put him in to start a few games, but it just depends on his confidence, because like we've seen at the start of the season, he's just making error after error. So
could be getting minutes in the legs with this Christmas. Let's be fair, we have a game around Christmas every 3 days, don't we? So it could be so that all the centre backs are ready to go in when needed.
Yeah, indeed. A few people talk about Edward and then Cannon, and I don't know what the recall is on him in January. Why would you not keep Cannon over Edward? Says Andy. I can't answer that because
it's a massive jump from the Championship to the Prem, though.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously they don't fancy Edouard at all, Nick. So you sort of think, well, if you're going to have a
Yeah, but we all agreed. Yeah, okay, we were all going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but let's be fair, it was a bit of a panic loan signing because I don't think we would have brought him in if
no,
Daka hadn't got Crocs in the summer. It was a panic. It was a panic by Cooper and his, and Rudkin and all that lot. Oh, I've not got enough strikers.
yeah. A few more comments here. James says Faze is so useless in there. Neil's asking KDH on loan in January suit both parties, but that's not going to happen at all. I
Why
don't
not?
even think. Well, I don't think the Premier League would allow it. To be fair, for a start, it's way too obvious about FFP and all sorts if you to do it. I would think. I'm not even sure it would work. I'm not even sure.
As of now, with the players we've got in that attack, I'm sorry, I don't even think you'd get back in. With one and not saying Kel Canoes, I know I'm saying
No,
they're
I,
better than I think they are, maybe, but I
I,
don't think
I
Viola is as
agree.
good as what people think he is in a way.
I think I see more in Buonatti. I'm even Nick. I'm even starting to think El Canus. There is a player there. He had that disastrous debut, and he had quite a lot of. He almost yesterday did some really really nice passes. I can see what he was trying. They just didn't come off for him. He was like either underweighting the passes or misaiming them. But I can see he's got a football brain, El Canus. I really can, Nick.
I don't think a midfield is a priority in the window anyway. I think another centre
It's got to
back
be a
is
striker, hasn't it, Nick?
well, centre back, striker, full back,
Right
possibly a
winger,
winger.
right winger.
Yeah,
You
just
laugh,
all those
but
positions. Yeah,
yeah, no, but you've got Ricky P out till April at the earliest, and let's be fair, Ricky's not been right since had his first injury. That this might be the one that knocks finally the stuffing out of him. You've got um Fatu out for the rest of the season. You need to take the support on the striker side, and then you've got a bomb scaring fast that for me, if a bid came in for him in January, I wouldn't hesitate in accepting it.
I don't think people would come in for him.
But read it. He's a Belgian international.
Oh, I know he is. I know
You
he
don't
is.
play. You
I'm
don't
just
play for
saying
Belgium if you're not good. For
his
me,
most
it's all
recent
about
form.
confidence. But
I know, I get that.
I
Yeah,
don't.
the most
I
recent
don't think
form. I
he's
don't think
any.
people are going to be wanting him, especially when he scores own goals for fun
Yeah.
sometimes.
I don't see why we
Okay.
don't go to Man U and try and loan in a Maguire for the rest of the season or something.
yeah, I've heard that, and I think that would make a lot of sense in lots of ways for Leicester. I would have no problem with that. Lads, we're nearly towards the end of the show. Obviously, it's Newcastle up next, so I know there'll be a match preview show that Fox is focused on Thursday, and of course, Reedy and Sam will be doing a tactics team. But I just want to get your views before we end the show on Newcastle, Reedy. It's going to be an interesting one, and Newcastle are certainly not quite that team they were last year. What's your initial early thoughts on Newcastle on Saturday?
They're a very up and down team. They've lost to West Ham. They've beaten a few other teams. I can't say the exact teams, but they're an up and down team. They lose games somehow randomly, and then they go and beat some of the bigger teams easily. So I wouldn't say I'm as confident as I was against Brighton. I thought we get a good result against Brighton. We did in the end, but I'm not too sure. Again, I'd take a draw, but I wouldn't be shocked if we lost, especially away from home. But again, Rude's doing all he can at the moment. He's done well to get the 4 points at the moment. So you never know. We might surprise ourselves again and get either a point or even a win against them.
I certainly take a draw, and that's where I'm hoping we get to, Nick. The big game, in a way, is a week on Sunday against Wolverhampton Wanderers, isn't it? I'm already thinking, well, if we often lose at Newcastle, that's just how it goes.
It's
But
such an intimidating place to get a
game,
result.
the Wolves game has got to be I mean, we talk about 6 points, we talk about lots of things, Nick. I'm like, if we really want to stay up this season, the Wolves game for me already looks just massive on the 22nd.
We thought the West Ham game was massive. We got a result.
Yeah, but you know what I mean about the Wolves one.
Here's one for you though. If you beat Newcastle, would you be happy to take a draw against Wolves?
Well, yeah, because it's another 4 points.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you got the win against
course.
Newcastle and you only drew to Wolves, you'd be like, is it good enough? I don't know. Obviously, you beat Newcastle, yes.
It's a missed opportunity, really. If you did go and win at Newcastle and then took a draw at home against Wolves, it would kind of feel like 2 points drop. But like West Ham and Brighton, we said 4 points from that will do. Newcastle and Wolves, 4 points.
4
Again,
points,
from that,
yeah.
Nick, would be good enough.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what you've got to both remember, we took 4 points from a possible 6 with a new manager that's had less than a week in charge of the team on
Yeah.
the training pitch. Spin it on its head. If Cooper's in charge still, do we get those 4 points from those 2 games?
I don't believe so.
Real?
But
No, well,
No.
no, probably not. Probably not. Chapster says here, and I understand his logic, Reedy. He's saying he'd rather beat Wolves than
yes.
Newcastle.
No, because that
would
gives
Yeah.
Wolves a point, doesn't it? But I
Yeah.
get the saying. I'm just saying that if we did get that shot win against Newcastle, I again, you'd want to get 3 points at Wolves, but you'd still be happy with the 4 points out of the both.
Because Nathan says here, Nick, if Wolves is a big game, would you rest Vardy against Newcastle? Well,
No.
Nick, we've got
can't
almost
rest
a
Vardy.
week till Newcastle, and then we've got 8 days after Newcastle to Wolves. I think that's enough time for resting Jamie Vardy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Just give him a 6-pack of Red Bull and he'll be ready to go.
Hey, I think if he gets one more red card though, he will be suspended.
A
Yeah,
red
well,
card
then
or a
like
yellow
I said,
card?
Yellow card,
Daka
sorry,
comes
yellow
in.
card, sorry. Sorry, yellow card. If he gets one more yellow card, me and my dad were talking about it against the game yesterday and saying if he got a yellow card yesterday, he'd be out for the Newcastle game. So if he gets one at the Newcastle game, he probably will be out for the Wolves. So maybe you do put Daka in against Newcastle on Saturday to not risk Vardy being out for Wolves. You never know.
No, indeed. Chris says Newcastle are on a stinking run. No cohesion within the team at the moment for them. I fancy us massively. Stephen says Brighton defenders started panicking after the introduction of Daka because they had 2 threats, Vardy and Daka in there. Michael says Andrew Neville will take us into administration again like he did before. Bit of doom and gloom at the end there. Just very briefly then, Reedy, score predictions.
What, head
For
and heart or
Newcastle.
just one?
Just one. Just what do you think it's going to be? If
Oh,
you had 10 quid
I'll-
to go to the bookies, what would you put it on?
2-2.
2-2.
I was going to go for a win, but I wouldn't bet on us to win. So.
No, that's fair enough. And Nick, same for you. A 10 quid bet, what would you put it on?
1-0 Leicester, Boy and Otter.
You get decent odds, I think, on that. You certainly would if you went 1-0 1-0 at Leicester away win. You'd probably get 50 to 1 or something.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be pretty, but like Rude says, he's not bothered about style. It's a results business.
I'd do that, mate. Even if you got $5 on that, mate, I'd do it just in case it comes in.
You best do it now. Yes, Nick. I don't know if you're a betting man, but now you've said it.
I don't have the look. The wife has the look.
Well, she met you now.
Tell her to do it.
That's all the look she needs, isn't it?
That's her endurance.
Listen, thanks, Nick and Reedy. Thanks both for joining us.
No worries.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you for bringing us
Let
on.
them go. We'll see you both soon. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Reedy. And of course, let's get as many comments in. Michael says Harvey Barnes will come back to haunt us. It often happens, doesn't it? To be fair, when they brought Welbeck on for Brighton yesterday, I thought, oh, he's bound to score. Welbeck seems to be one of those players. Obviously, not ex-Leicester, different Michael, but there's certain players. Welbeck seems to score against us. I thought Danny Ings was going to score against us. He seems to have got a few over the time. 1-1 says Jane. Daka to score in there. Jono LCFC says 2-2. Very happy with that. Chris says 0-1 Barnes own goal. I was reading that thinking, where's Chris going with that? He's going 1-0 to Leicester. Barnes own goal, 89th minute. We'd happily take that in there, of course. Listen, thanks everybody for all your views, all your comments. If you're watching this live, thanks for getting your comments in. Don't forget, next week, click on the link. Come and give us your video views. If you can give us a like, if you're watching on Facebook, if you can give us a retweet on Twitter or X, and if you're watching on YouTube, give us a subscribe so it always pings when you are. Hit that notification button now. Last couple of comments in there. Craig says it'd take a 1-1 draw, and Tony gets the last comment of the night. He says 1-3. I assume that's 1 to Newcastle, 3 to Leicester. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for all the likes, thanks for all the shares, thanks for Reedy, thanks for Nick. See you all again next Monday. Don't forget, Thursday at 7:30, it's Fox's Focus, and Reedy and Sam will be live on Thursday lunch with their tactics team talk. We'll see you all then. Cheers.
Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents A variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.